Hi Claire, can you hear us? Can you see us?
Can you hear me? Yes. I hope you can hear me. Thank you very much for inviting me to join you in your very distinguished event with many very distinguished speakers. I hope I'll hear you shout if we have no connection. It's early here in Europe. I'm very sorry I can't come to join you directly, but maybe you know that I have a few problems with visiting Malaysia at the moment, which I hope will change. And I apologize for speaking in English, but I spoke a little Malay when I was a small girl, but I would make a fool of myself if I tried to speak to you in Malay, so my apologies. I'm just wanting maybe to give you some perspective on the 1MDB story from abroad. When I started writing about 1MDB, maybe I was the only journalist chasing this story from abroad. Lots of journalists in Malaysia obviously knew a lot about the problem. Now, many journalists from many countries are very interested in 1MDB. And I spend a lot of my day now talking to other journalists about 1MDB, giving some of the background, explaining what has happened over the year. Often Malaysians say, why are you writing about 1MDB? And I think I have a lot of good answers to that. The first one is that it's, of course, very difficult for Malaysian journalists to write about 1MDB. It's become more and more difficult for Malaysian journalists to cover this story because it is inconvenient to the government, and we have seen major crackdowns. Just in the last week, we've read a very senior group editor of the New Straits Times stepped down from his job because he felt he could no longer write the truth about 1MDB. He said things had got worse over the last year because of the 1MDB scandal for freedom of journalists. Now, from New Straits Times, who have been attacking me a lot, this is a very significant admission, very worrying for Malaysians. A few weeks before that, you saw a senior writer from Utusan, indeed, is saying the same thing and bravely resigning from his job. So you have brave, excellent journalists in Malaysia who would rather stop being journalists because they can't tell the truth. So for me, this is a very good reason. I am in Britain, and we are still allowed to write the truth, and we have freedom of expression, and journalists are protected. And that is how it should be still in Malaysia. And so, because it is not at the moment, I am trying to do my bit to at least write the truth. We've seen many laws introduced in the last year not to protect the truth, not to protect individuals, but to protect certain powerful people who do not want the truth, which is inconvenient and embarrassing to them. This is a very serious development in Malaysia. We have seen people from all sides of the political spectrum, brave, honourable people, who are standing together on occasions like this, not because of their political position, but to stand up for the truth. Now, are you having problems listening to me? Because I'm seeing people coming up.
No, we're fine. We can hear you fine. Maybe I think your image may not be so clear to the crowd. But yeah, Claire, maybe I can just jump in here quickly. obviously, 1MDB has garnered a lot of negative coverage overseas in many of the international newspapers. But perhaps you can tell us here in Malaysia, why should we care that 1MDB is getting this much negative publicity overseas? What is the impact on Malaysians, from all this negative coverage?
Well, I don't know if you should care about what other people are saying. Probably you should care about the fact that $7 billion has been stolen from you. Probably you should care that your liberties are being taken away from you in order to cover up this scandal. As far as the foreign media is concerned, why do we care? Why are we writing about this? The answer is that this is not just a Malaysia problem. We have looked at the example of what's going on in Malaysia, and it's a very good example of global financial problems. You're seeing how the offshore banking industry and a corrupt behavior by banks are working together to hide criminal activities. People who should not be wealthy are able to hide their wealth from the rest of us through these systems. So that's why more and more the international media are interested in 1MDB. It's an example of a global problem that's affecting all of us. It's not just Malaysia in its little island. We are all connected now in the global economy, and problems that are affecting you affect us also. The Malaysians have clamped down on 1MDB. They're no longer covering the story. But now that the issue is out, of course, foreign regulators and foreign law enforcers are continuing to examine and investigate this stolen money. Because the laws are now international when it comes to anti-money laundering. So just because Najib is wanting to shut down the investigation in Malaysia, anti-money laundering is something that worries everybody globally. And so you are seeing the investigation continue. And when you talk about negative coverage, negative reporting, this reporting is not against Malaysia. The reporting is against criminals from both Malaysia and also a large number of other countries, particularly where banks and businessmen have been supporting this theft and the money laundering of this money. So this is one very important reason why we are, all of us, interested in this story. And it's not about negative reporting of Malaysia. In fact, Malaysia could end up being a very positive example if this investigation continues and the whole truth comes out. It will be one example where the anti-money laundering enforcers have shown a victory, and maybe we'll see some positive changes thanks to Malaysia. So, this could end up being ironically, it may end up being a proud moment if we can solve this problem that's been giving Malaysia trouble.
Yeah, we can hope that 1MDB would be a good lesson for other countries not to emulate, and for stronger mechanisms to be put in place to avoid something like this happening again.
I think absolutely. This is why the foreign media are so interested in this story. I have spoken to a number of people who are not far away from the regulators who are looking at this, and they see this as a new dawn, a fight back against the abuses of offshore banking mechanisms. They are looking to clean up this problem, and Malaysia, thank you Malaysia, you may be helping the global regulators lead the way in improving this matter.
Clare, now that many foreign media are starting to pay attention to 1MDB, what kind of role do you see yourself moving forward in terms of your journalistic attempts to uncover more information and to report on 1MDB?
Well, actually, after a year, I think it's a huge relief for me and some of the journalists who first started looking at this internationally to see now that the crowd is moving in. The big boys are now writing about this story, and the regulators are doing most of the investigating now. I mean, very interesting developments in the last week. We have seen very, very significant new information, which is really, the first time that we have seen the money trail go back into Najib's account. And this was information leaked from regulators who are investigating it. It's no longer journalists, it's regulators who are bringing the information forward. So, of course, I'm sure most of you will know what we have now discovered is that the money has been traced from 1MDB's bond issue in 2013, March, straight from Goldman Sachs to BSI Bank, to a fund, an offshore fund called Devonshire, on to the Tanor Finance Corporation, which is just a company, an offshore company, and then into Najib Razak's personal account. Just those steps. 1MDB, Devonshire, BSI, Devonshire, Tanor, Najib, all in 1 week. Now, this is very significant. At what point are people going to accept that the money went from 1MDB to Najib's personal account? I mean, there are no royal Saudi figures here, and this is solid information. And what's even more interesting is that there was a little mistake in the original reporting of that information. The Wall Street Journal said the wrong branch of BSI Bank, and my goodness, big reaction. You see the Singapore authorities saying he didn't come to Singapore, What happens? Najib's spokesman, big reaction, lies from Wall Street Journal, lies from international media. Okay, correction. It went to the Swiss headquarters of BSI Bank. Silence. Now, what does this tell us? It tells us that the rest is true, that the basic story is true. So, we're now seeing this moving out of the control of Najib. He can do what he likes, maybe, depending on what Malaysian voters are prepared to put up with, to his local journalists, his local people who are prepared to speak up. But he's not going to be able to stop this information coming out.
Yeah, Claire, this is Lim Kit Siang. Welcome, and you've done a great job. I have one question for you. If the Public Accounts Committee invite you to testify and guarantee you immunity during your stay here, would you be prepared to come to Malaysia to testify and to help in getting to the bottom of the 1MDB scandal?
Well, that's a very nice offer. Can the Public Accounts Committee guarantee my immunity? You seem to have a slightly perhaps I'm not entirely sure whether your chairman can be completely trusted at this stage. I have, of course, had some fairly dramatic charges laid against me in Malaysia. These are the sorts of crimes that do not exist where I write. I'm accused of having acted against parliamentary democracy by writing factual information about 1MDB. And indeed, the Malaysian government is still pestering Interpol in order to get a red alert terrorist arrest on me. So I have to admit I'm not hugely confident about coming to Malaysia at the moment. I would be delighted to testify under such circumstances of video link. I'd be very pleased to do that.
I think we'll leave it to the Public Accounts Committee Chairman, Dato' Hassan Arifin, to clarify the matter, whether he's prepared to take the lead, to invite you to come to Malaysia to testify and to get the authorities to guarantee immunity for you. Let's wait for his response. Thank you very
Well,
much.
I think if he gave his word and Malaysia publicly gave me safe passage, I am sure that Malaysia would honour that and would not so publicly go back to Malaysia. They would obviously I would be willing to come.
Claire, thanks so much for your time. Are there any final last words that you want to pass on to the people here at the forum as well as to the media who are covering this event?
Well, I want to congratulate the Malaysian media for their sterling work. They're working under very difficult circumstances compared to me, and there has been some excellent journalism, some very brave individuals who are speaking out against what is an aggressive situation. I'm just so sorry that you are facing a situation where the people in power are refusing to do the honourable thing. Really, in the end, it's up to the voters of Malaysia to decide how they think that this scandal should be resolved. That's quite clear, because you're not going to see any resignations or any action from law enforcers that you should expect in a democracy. And in the end, this is now down to the voters in this constituency and elsewhere in Malaysia to decide whether they want a democracy, whether they want the rule of law, or whether they're going to give in to bullying by people who have things to hide. So I will keep trying to do my job from afar, and now I've given my pledge that, given certain guarantees, I have nothing to hide, and I'm very willing to share what information I can to help you resolve this problem. So I wish you all very well with your own conference, and I hope you have a clean election.
Can we give a round of applause to Clare Rewcastle? Thank you much, Claire, and I'm sure we'll hear from you in the near future, given the fact that there's still a lot to uncover on 1MDB. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Boris.